Brilliant. Okay, so thank you both for joining me to talk about family engagement at MacIntyre. So one of the first questions, and I guess the reason we've come together is both of you, Carly and Carole, you're such advocates across MacIntyre for family engagement locally in your area. So I would have been crazy to try and answer these questions without your input. So first question, and I put it out, and either one of you feel free to answer, is what does family engagement mean to you personally, I guess, in your role at MacIntyre?
I'm happy to start, if that's all right, Carole.
Yeah, sure.
I think for me, it's keep in touch with families in a way that makes sense for them. Because, you know, we talk about being person-centered, like everything we do in MacIntyre, and I think that's exactly the same with families, really, you know. So whether that's, you know, if that's find preferred communication, so whether that's emails, whether that's text, whether that's phone calls, whether that's face-to-face, and doing that on a very individualized basis, it's a case of that one box doesn't fit all, isn't it, you know, for families. And I think, and actually when we are spending time with families, being present in that conversation, so booking that time out of the diary so you're not distracted by phone calls or emails, you know, shutting the laptop down, all of those things, because actually I think there's nothing worse than talking and no one hearing what you're saying. So I think I always say, to when I speak to some of the families, you know, that we might not always agree with things, but what we're always going to do is work for the same end goal, and that's the person that's supported, so their loved one, and, you know, and person we're supporting, and that's the way. So sometimes we may come from different points of view, but it's meeting in the middle. But I think if you can get the communication, the listening, the being heard right, that seems to work. Yeah. In our areas.
Yeah, I think I agree with Carly on that. For me, it's adding that extra dimension to the person that we're supporting. If we will see folks in a, you know, almost a 9-to-5 situation. It's not 9 to 5, but it could be. And there's more to an individual than that time slot that we see them. There's, you know, it's the day trips that they go on with their families or the people that are supporting them in their house. It's the family members. Who are their family members? You know, we've got a person is more than that little slot that we have, and if we can use the information that we get or talk about in family meetings and as engaging with individuals, that just adds to the person that we're supporting.
Yeah, no, thank you. And we've just refreshed, excuse me, our one-page family profile at MacIntyre. So we talk a lot about one-page profiles for people with a learning disability, but we've just created sort of updated one that can be really helpful to encourage those questions. You know, how do you like to communicate? What's your, you know, when's the best time to contact you, etc. So yeah, we have got that tool that can help with that if that's something that would make that process easier. Okay, so next one, can you share, either one of you or both of you, share a moment when involving a family made a real difference? And it doesn't have to be the biggest difference, but even a subtle change, that benefit.
We had a young man at one of the day services, and he had quite recently lost his mum, and his sister was taking over the support for him. He's now living with her, and basically it was getting too much for her. She was really struggling, and she just needed, on the particular time that she chose to come, she hasn't been since. I've spoken to her since, but she hasn't been to a meeting since. She just needed that time to come and vent and get the support of the other parents that were there, and recognise that she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just learning like we all are. But she's a young lady, she's got a young child of her own, and now she has a brother living with her who she loves unconditionally, but it was tough, and she just needed to be in the presence of other people who got what she was going through.
I think for me, probably the most significant changes we've had of when things haven't been going as well as what we want them to be. for whatever way, and actually being really open and transparent with that in terms of those conversations with families, and throughout that finding out really what they want us to do to help us make it better. And and I think sometimes our biggest learning comes, doesn't it, from things that happen, and and we'd love things to every day to be brilliant and amazing, and they are, but in the same way people are living real lives, aren't they? So there can be difficulties along the way. There can be health professionals that aren't listening, and all of those sorts of things that we kind of battle against. So I think when things haven't been going as we wanted them to, just really involving the family and spending that time to get it right. Yeah, I think that is just massive. Yeah.
And I can't help pulling the resources that we've got. So if people are hopefully listening to this, we have our family charter at MacIntyre, which I know you're both familiar with. Again, I've spent a little bit of time over the last few months just trying to revise and refresh old resources that I know are super helpful, and that kind of resource would really help where maybe you've got a new family dynamic or a relationship, or actually something doesn't feel quite right, and it's a really nice way of reflecting either together with the family but also in your own team meetings and things like that. So again, it's a really good resource that was created by families as well. I know you both are aware of that, but again, a really good one to pull upon to just help with that, and not sometimes where we don't mean to, but we can bury our heads a little bit, can't we, and avoid situations that feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that can make everything feel a lot more tricky. Okay, thank you both. Okay, I like this question, which I'm sure you'll be really enthusiastic with answering. So what inspired you to champion family engagement in your area? Why have you, because you've both sat by my side really since my role began, and I really appreciate that, but why have you continued to do that?
You inspired me, actually, Nikki. I think coming into contact with somebody who gets what you feel, excuse me, your beliefs about the importance of family connection was something that I felt. I'm sure Carole did as well. And it's knowing that you're not the only one that thinks that, and it gives you the oomph to go and take it further into certainly in the Derbyshire area. It encouraged me to make the moves to push to get it going.
Yeah, I think for me, being a parent and having a family and realizing how important it is to feel listened to, and to feel like there's a non-judgmental space to be listened to, and all of those things, I think that's what's inspired me to make sure or at least try and get that right along the way, and carry on working with families in a way that they want me to work with them, I think, as well, not me pushing my opinion on that as well. I think sometimes really understanding people's journeys, and sort of understanding that unfortunately the systems that we've got are built to kind of feel like a battle, that you need a suit of armor in to go from when your child is very young, that the systems aren't easy to navigate. So I think understanding where families are coming from, or that journey they've been on, and it hasn't always been easy, I always think that for me is where I've always taken the first step from, and and just thought, no, actually I would want to be listened to, and I'd want to be heard, and I'd want to be taken notice of, because the system doesn't always do those things. So that's.
Oh, thank you both. And that's so, it's that kind of human behind everything, isn't it? Knowing, and I always say, when I'm speaking to other areas, other teams, when we run our Working with Families workshop at MacIntyre, which is something that can be really useful, but it's just stopping and getting to know that your family, and that will look different in every family that you support in some way, shape or form. But it's so important, isn't it, not to label or judge, really hearing from their world and what they've gone through over the years. And we know from speaking to many families, it's not easy. So yeah, I think when we do it well at MacIntyre, we do it really well, and we're consistent with it as well, which I know you both are, and that makes such a difference. You're not just welcoming families once a year; it's consistent, and then the families get used to that, and that's what good family engagement looks like. And yeah, no, I really appreciate what what you both are doing. Okay, so should we go on to the next question of how do you go about building positive relationships with families?
I think for me, it's like I've said previously, it's communication, getting that right. What that means for that family, because I think some families do want a lot, a lot of your time face to face. Others, they really want something through an email, or another family might want something just through text, or they might, kind of be spread, and not being judging on each individual circumstances as well, because I think actually, everyone's really busy, and just because their son or daughter or loved one is in supported living doesn't mean to say they don't have a life outside of that. So but I think kind of really just getting that approach right. So I think the first thing we always do, and I encourage the managers to do, is just really get to know the families, on quite a personal level, really, so it feels comfortable, because I think unless we build trust, we're never going to be able to work together. Because like when I said, when things don't go right, if you haven't got trust, it's really hard to rebuild that. Whereas actually, if you've got trust and faith in the provider and the staff team around your loved one, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? So yeah, for me, it's got to be the communication from the beginning.
Yeah, I agree with that. Communication and consistency. Like Nikki said earlier, that it's not just a matter of doing it once a year. It's knowing, and for them, it's knowing that they are. There is a slot that they can come in and talk to us, even if they don't, because sometimes they don't feel like they can come in and talk to the staff, and don't have the opportunity to be fair, to come in and talk to staff on a daily basis. But if they know there's like one slot that they can come in on a regular basis, then they can come in. And sometimes they don't even talk to the staff, they just talk, and it's peer support that they come in for, and so they've got peer support, they've got staff support, consistency, communication. Works.
Yes, definitely. It does. And again, one of the things I hear quite frequently, if I am supporting an area or a staff team with family engagement, you listen and you unpick it a little bit, but 99% of the time, its communication is just gone sort of a little bit wobbly. And once that's back in line, that makes sense for the family, it works with you, everything's back on track. But it's one of the things that is in life in all ways, but it's one of those things that we can not intentionally drop, but we do. And it's so important that we, going back to that family charter, we acknowledge when we've made a mistake or when we've not done something quite right, and we own that. And and that sort of, yeah, being brave enough to do that, that's so important. So no, thank you both. Okay, so what small thing do you do that helps families feel valued and supported? Is there anything that you do that you could encourage others?
I think if you're going to do something, if you say you're going to do something, you've got to do it. So if someone rings you and they want a phone call back, you have to ring that back, no matter how you uncomfortable at times you may feel about making that phone call. But actually, if you don't, it's only going to get bigger, or that the issues are going to get worse. So I think actually, like you say, owning it. If people have made contact and you say you're going to do something, absolutely do it. And I've always worked very much so, and the managers in my area the same, very much open door, that we can be contacted, that there may be times we're not on the end of our emails, but we pick up the phone and those sorts of things, because I think to feel valued, I think is a really big thing for families. So yeah, definitely doing what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's true. And listening to properly listening. Perhaps you don't agree with what's being talked about, or maybe you see your opinion is of the events or situation is different. But listening to and letting them know that you're listening and understanding, taking them seriously, and if they've got a problem like Carly's alluded to there, try sorting it. Don't just say you're going to and then forget all about it. It's absolutely essential that you work through and have a conclusion that's suitable for both people.
No, definitely. And yeah, I'm such one of the things that I know that we can, again, not always do is that follow through, isn't it? Yeah, I'll call you at 5 o'clock this evening, and then you might go, there's no point because I haven't got an answer, but still call and say, because and again, conversations I've had with families, it's that it makes them feel valued, even you might not have the answer at that moment in time, but keep connected is super important. And that whole listening, Carole, I can listen, I might not have the answer, but I'm here to listen, and 9 times out of 10 that takes a bit of stress away, can take that sort of pressure off a family because they've offloaded it. And we all know what it's like when you bottle things up a little bit. If you've got someone that truly is going to take the time to listen, that's brilliant. And yeah,
I think also honesty. If you can't sort a situation out at that particular moment in time, or you've not got an answer to a question, be honest, because we are human. Yeah. And that in itself, admitting that you can't do something, sometimes diffuses a situation, doesn't it? Yeah. And then when you get back to them, it means more.
Yeah, definitely. Carole, you're just linking to the family charter. It's amazing. I love it. Okay, just a couple more questions and then we'll tie up. So, have you faced any pushback or challenges when you've tried to work closely with families? And if so, how have you overcome that or responded to that?
I think for me, only initially. I think at that initial point, they don't trust me. They don't trust me. They don't know me. They don't know what we do and all of those things. So I think that just working through that and building that relationship, and then, and like I say, and as Carole said before, then keeping that consistency, then ongoing. But yeah, initially I think it's trust, isn't it? That takes a while to build, and it doesn't always come easy. If people have had quite difficult experiences in the past. So
yeah. Not to take it personally, I guess, Carly, as well, isn't it? You've got yeah,
absolutely.
I think some people here think, oh well, a family meeting the family meetings we run, maybe it's not for them because they've not got anything to say, or they've not got anything to complain about, or I don't think they understand that it's not about that. It's just making that connection, and if we can solve problems, if we can help in any way, then that's an added bonus. But it's making that connection, and I think that was one of the biggest things is getting it out there, because it had been a long time since we'd had these family meetings as such here. And re-establishing them for some people was absolutely, couldn't wait to get in, but for others they still think now, oh well, I don't know whether it's for me, or I've not been at the day service, my family member's not been at the day service for so long, I don't know whether I can contribute. Everybody can contribute.
And I saw that, Carole, when I sat around that circle in Derbyshire, how powerful the connection with the families were. And I think we might have said maybe before we pressed record, that the relationships that each family gives one another. Sometimes you feel like you're not needed that's what you want, isn't it? You want that kind of, especially when it's unexpected and you think, oh, I wouldn't have expected that family to maybe gel, and we've made those pre-assumptions or something, and you're watching that sort of flourish in front of you, which is amazing. No, that's brilliant. Okay, last question. And if anyone is picking up this video, this recording, we hope that the reason being is that you're kind of influenced, or you want to sort of really think about family engagement in your area. So the last question would be really, really helpful is, what advice would you give to a new staff member, or a staff member that's worked at MacIntyre for years, that this is something maybe that they've not really put a lot of energy into when working with families or circles of support? Lasting message.
Do it.
Me, I'll go first. I think be yourself, be authentic. I think that it gets found out, doesn't it? If you're not authentic, that gets found out. And actually, families appreciate you being authentic in the way that you are in your approach. I think if you don't know something, signpost that in the right way rather than getting yourself tied up in saying things that aren't right. The managers are all there to help support you in that as well, in terms of those relationships, and just being really honest with the family and saying, don't know that, but actually I'm going to pass it on, and we'll find out for you, because I think sometimes you can sort of tie yourselves up in knots, can't you, thinking, oh, worried about them saying the right thing or the wrong thing. So yeah, but yeah, be yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. I think the staff that I see that absolutely flourish, and work with families really well, they're just absolutely naturally, their personality shines through. Yeah, and it just seems to, and that seems to work so well with the families as well.
I genuinely would say, read the family charter. If you've not read the family charter, read it, and you'll see, and more than likely will agree with all the values on there. And if you can get the support of the staff around you, it makes it a lot easier. But just do it. Just try. Speak to individual families. See if they'd be interested in a big family meeting or whatever. Again, going back to what Carole said earlier, do what suits the families in your area, but do it.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much, and reach out to me, to Carole, to Carly, for any support that you'll need. But I really appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you both. Has that stopped recording? You're now. Oh no, it's not. Hang on.
No, the transcript stopped.